everybody, my name is Megan. You're watching Miss Megan Knits. Links to anything I'm going to talk to you about today will be in the description box below. Hello. I'm here with a 2-week update. This will likely be a little bit of a shorter podcast than my typical 2-week updates, just because when I was doing them regularly, I was doing a lot of knitting, and now I'm only doing like some knitting, like a reasonable amount of knitting. So it's gonna be a little bit less today, but I figured I'd come show you what I've been doing anyway and chit chat about my week. When have I been knitting? Before bed, usually. Yeah, before bed usually. I've knit also during church. Pastor's cool with it. We're in person now, in the lawn, because Massachusetts has got a very good rate of people getting vaccinations, a very low rate of cases. Yay. So we are back singing again. We are back, we're mostly on the lawn. We're inside a hall, like their event space when it's raining and stuff. I'm really liking that. That's really making me feel good. But I'm knitting. Point is, I'm knitting, and everybody is just fine with that. Like, nobody's like, why can't I knit during a sermon? I knit while I watch TV. So I've been doing that. I've been knitting in bed at night, and then I've also today been knitting at Sims 3, and you'll see that when I did my amigurumi, and I'll show you the progress, nearly all the progress that I made on the amigurumi was made today while playing Sims. I actually set the speed to 1, so I didn't fast forward through like long, boring actions, and did a bunch of amigurumi while my sim wrote a book. That's efficiency for you folks. Yeah, so that's kind of me. I'm going to show you, I still have the same 3 projects in progress. I didn't start anything new. I didn't finish anything. But here we are, some more whips for your viewing pleasure. I'm going to start with that amigurumi I just talked about. I have this in a Webs drawstring sack that my mother got me for Christmas. Open it up. And then, so the pattern I'm doing is from this book, Crocheted Bears and Other Animals, 25 Toys to Crochet by Emma Brown. The camera is flipping it for you. I noticed this when I was editing the last one. So you're looking at it as if I was holding it up to a mirror. And I couldn't exactly figure out how to make it not do that, because I want it to do that for my selfies. Because I'm used to seeing myself in the mirror. It makes me feel weird when I see myself flipped. But for video, I don't want it to do that. I'm struggling. So sorry that this is not correct. But so I have Whimsy the bunny is who I'm making right now. Let me show you the picture of her. This is Whimsy. And there's her little friend Hodge, I believe, poking out. But that's the one I'm making. I am going to do her sweater instead of a 3-striped sweater like she's wearing. I'm just going to do one color of this variegated Red Heart Super Saver, just to make it simpler on myself. Just one color. And it'll be cool multicolored sweater because it'll have the variegated in it. Now, the project here, we have the head that I'm working on right now. You saw it last time, it was like 3 rounds, and now it's reasonably sized. This is the nose part, and then this is the head that I'm working plain rounds right now, and then we're going to probably close out the back. And this yarn is Stitch Studio by Nicole, Studio Basic, probably discontinued. This is the AC Moore brand. AC Moore is gone. Their yarn is gone. They were bought by Michaels. A lot of people were hoping Michaels would like reopen some of their yarn and like just call it Loops and Threads now. I haven't seen that happen. Just sad. This is Studio Basic. It's just a really simple one in Vanilla Bean. Not Studio Classic. I want to point that out. Studio Classic is a pain to work with for amigurumi because it is so soft and it splits. So working with it at the tight gauge with a small hook just makes me want to scream. So I saved the Studio Classic for either knitting or for like larger gauge crochet where we're not trying to be so dense. Speaking of hook, I don't think I said hook, but speaking of hook, this is the Knit Picks Bright Crochet Hook set in a 3.5mm. And that's getting me a gauge I like. It's dense enough to like be amigurumi. There's no holes in it, but it's not so stiff it's not cuddly, and it also isn't so stiff my wrists are screaming at me, because they like to do that when I work at really tight gauges. I get a lot of pain here, carpal tunnel, you know the drill. So it's nice that I'm working just right, Goldilocks zone of gauges. Anything else in here? Nope, just notions case. Oh, I did want to point out how I keep track of where I am in my patterns. So, let's see if I can do this without showing you the pattern. I use, you saw that sticky with an arrow, and I move it in my pattern books to point to the direction I'm on. I do this especially with amigurumi because the instructions are often so close together and every round is different. So it's really nice to be able to see really clearly where I am. I will say the downside to this is the book gets kind of sticky from the adhesive. I have not yet figured out the best way to de-stick a book. I need Post-its, because this is a Post-it. I don't know if this is the off-brand Post-it, but these notes say they leave no residue, and they leave a residue, at least in my experience. I personally think that these amigurumi books are to be used, and this is the way I use them, so I'm not super upset that they are getting worn from use, because like the whole point of them is to be used, but it's a little annoying. I also have right here this sticky note. So I was using this while I was playing Sims, so I wouldn't have to count rounds. So I had rounds 12 through 19 were plain rounds. So I made a little note that said plain rounds, which you can't see. And I just listed round 12, round 13, round 14, etc. down to round 19. And then whenever I got to my stitch marker, because I just knit in plain, I wasn't counting anything, or crocheting plain rounds, I wasn't counting anything. When I got to my stitch marker, I crocheted over it, replaced the stitch marker to mark the end of the round. So my stitch marker is the end of the round. To replace it, and then I crossed off the round number. That way I could multitask really easily. I do know how to count my rounds, but I just thought this would be so much simpler on my brain than you have to. Why not make it easy for myself, you know? The thing I want to talk about stitch markers. I have my stitch marker at the end of my round. It's the last stitch of the round. My first amigurumi experience was with a Craftsy class from Stacy Trock about woodland animals. And so this is my loop. This is my last stitch of the round that the marker is clipped to. But I've seen a lot of places mark the first stitch of the round. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm just wondering if I'm alone here in thinking. I'm obviously not alone if I was taught this way, but you know what I mean? Like, how many people really mark the end versus the beginning? It doesn't matter as long as you know what you're talking about. You know what you're marking, but it's very interesting. This one says use stitch marker to denote first stitch of every round. Dunno. To me, it makes more sense to do the last. I don't know why, though. I don't know why my brain likes that. Okay, so then that's it. I'm gonna have Bunny with a blue sweater. I don't really have much else to say about that. It's a good book. It's a cute book. Her amigurumi are all in DK weight. That's another thing. These are all DK weight amigurumi. I'm working in worsted. So her animals are going to be smaller than what mine come out to be. She doesn't provide a gauge. What she basically says is, here's the yarn, here's the hook size I used. Gauge isn't important. You want a firm fabric that nothing's going to poke through. So if you need to do a different hook size to like make that happen, do that. Which is kind of cool. That's one of the things I like about amigurumi. I don't think I've ever done a crochet project that required accurate gauge, which is ridiculous because I know how to do gauge. Like, I understand how gauge works. I understand how to count stitches in rows. I know how knitting gauge works. I do that all the time, so why would I not do crochet gauge? I just haven't found any sweaters I've loved, I guess, or haven't found any sweaters I've loved enough to buy that much yarn for, because you know crochet, man, eats the crap out of yarn. Okay. So that was my amigurumi project. Socks. Socks are what I've been knitting, mostly during church. and during bio lectures. So we have Zoom lectures twice a week in the evenings. And I love the professor I have. He's really cool. I really like his way of teaching. I like his way of doing exams and stuff like that. Like, it makes a lot of sense to me. His lectures are at snail's pace. And I like that because it gives me a chance to think everything over and process it over instead of frantically trying to take notes so I can process it later, right? Because sometimes in a lecture when they're talking fast, you're just writing and then trying to review later and think about it. This gives me the chance to do it all kind of in one spot. I don't even take notes, honestly, because one, it's kind of a review. I've taken AP Bio in high school. That was years ago, so I definitely need this class as a refresher, but it's nothing new or wild or crazy concept-wise, because this is Bio 121. It's Intro Bio 4 majors, because I am a bio major. And yeah, I don't know. I don't feel the need to take notes. I do very well in the class, so I don't. Why, you know? So what I do instead is knit on my sock. That was the point. That was where I was trying to get to. Oh, jeez. Okay. Yep. So, couple of things. We will start with why this is such a mess. I had this in somewhat of a reasonable. Oh, there goes the little bowl. I had this in somewhat of a reasonable shape, and happened to pull this scrap out of my bag to work with in the middle of a sermon yesterday. So today's Monday when I'm filming this. So, Sunday. You know, I'm sitting, I'm knitting, I'm listening to the Bible, I'm knitting, whatever. I'm listening to the sermon. It was a great one about, you know, Jesus being there and walking on water and whatnot. And by the way, God's there for you when you're down, you know, just like, I forget the moral, but God's there for you, you know. And I was knitting, and all of a sudden, just yarn explosion. What is this? How did this happen? This is, I believe, Knit Picks Capretta. And the rest of the skeins have been lovely to me. They have not done that at all. This one just, I don't know if it was messed up and I rewrapped it like hastily and said I'll deal with it later and then never did and then it blew up on me. But I was partway through, like, it's too little of a stripe to just like cut it and deal with it later. So I'm in church with this whole pile on my lap trying to like fish through it. I feel like that was more than a little distracting, probably. The poor pastor has to look down on everybody, and then I'm over here like in my little camp chair in the lawn. She didn't say anything because, you know, she's cool, but like, kind of feel bad. I feel like that would have been distracting if I was giving a public speech of some kind and like somebody was doing that in the audience. I would have been like, what? So yeah, I guess I gotta wind this, is my guess, on the ball winder. Dear Lord, if I have the other end though. Gotta set that aside as a to-do. So that's my story about that. That's why that's good. What am I making? I am making these socks for my sister Ashley. See the door. I thought the door was open for like half a minute for no reason. There we go. So these are scrappy. These have got lots of purples and some gray purple and some green. They are 2x2 ribbed at the top and at the top front of the leg, and then they are stockinette on the bottom and on the back. They've got a heel that is a toe up sock, heel flap and gusset heel, because she, like I, have a wide instep, which is this part of your foot right here, this diagonal line. And she's hard because she has very skinny ankles and a big instep. And you gotta make a sock stretchy enough to like fit over the instep, obviously, because it's gotta make it past here, but then small enough to tighten the ankle. Now I have those problems to a little bit less of a degree. I do have a wide instep, so I have some idea of how to handle it. And I also have some idea of the fact that like an afterthought heel does not fit me. I can put it on, I can stretch it real hard, I can make it work and fiddle with it, but then by the end of the day, the heel's gonna be down at the bottom of my foot, it's not gonna fit right, it just slips and slides all around, it's not secure. So heel flap and gusset heels better. And this particular tutorial from Modern Daily Knitting from what is her name? Kate Atherley, I believe is her name. She's the designer, the famous designer who wrote this. Writes a really good how-to of that for any stitch number. Gives you the way to do the math, the way to figure it out, and the way to get a perfect heel for your sock. So, and it's free. It's just a blog post. So I'll link that. Definitely check that out. But that's my thing. Yep. Simple stretchy bind off at the top. Oh, and this is a Judy's Magic cast on and increases. So here we are with the second one. Now, you will notice something interesting. I'll line them up for you. Okay. This one, see, I do the toe, and then once the increases stop, I start doing the 2x2 rib. I didn't get the memo on this one until I was all the way up here. So like all this is stuck in it. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I was like, do I rip it out, right? Do I pull back and rib? What I decided was, no. It's fine, just leave it. Which I may regret later. I am a huge perfectionist in pretty much all areas of my life, to the point where I'm working on it in therapy, because it's a disorder at this point. But I'm gonna leave it, because they're not gonna be on my feet. No, that's mean. No, it's just because it's not that big a deal. It'll be in your shoes. And I thought, I don't know. These are my scraps. Most of them are knit picks. I've got this pink one is Chroma. A lot of them are Capretta. Several of them because I made a shawl out of Capretta, like a whole bunch of purples of Capretta. So a lot of these are here. And then some Stroll. The green is Stroll. I think the only thing that's not knit picks is this heel, which is Peyton's Croy sock. So this is as far as we've come. I think we were just on the tippy tip of the toe last time, and now we've graduated. This is how much I did during one church service, even while playing with the yarn ball thing. Ladies and gents, that's the place to knit. You're quiet. Nobody bothers you. You can listen to something, you know, while you're knitting. That's the way to do it. Find a church. Go there. I'm just kidding. Don't just find any random church. Find one you like. Here we go. Lost it. There we go. The whole thing fell. Okay. Let's just shove you back in the back. I gotta remember to do that. That's gonna be a pain in the behind, winding that all back up again. Okay. So that was object number 2 of 3. And now we have project number 3, which also has a terrible story. Why did 2 out of my 3 projects today have disaster stories? So let's just look at it. So I'm going to show you the pattern first. Beware of my printing. The printing does not do the pattern justice. The printer was running out of the right color ink or something. That's not, or something. It was running out of the right color ink. So this is the Austin hoodie. What it basically is a fingering weight like cardigan with a hood. That's just like really casual, but it has some details to it still. So I really like it. This is by Connie Chang Chinchio. Physics Knits. Last time I was like, is she Physics Knits or is she like, what is something sciencey? I figured out Physics Knits is the collection that this is in. Or a collection she has. No, it would be the one this is in because it was on that Ravelry page. So that's why I got that confused. It's not her name, it's the collection. So I have, before we get to the disaster story, let me talk to you about what it is, where it is now. This yarn is Cascade Heritage Sock, which is what I used for a previous pair of socks I made for Ashley that were video game themed. And she She really liked them. I really liked working with the yarn. So here it is. Very beautiful dark purple, slightly tonal, I think. Maybe it's a solid. In this light it looks solid. In other lights it's looked tonal. Probably a solid. Don't know, don't care. It looks pretty. So what we've got here. Now last time I had a provisional cast on plus a couple of rows. Why is that pulling? Oh, it's just stretching because I'm stretching it. Weird. We had a provisional cast on plus a couple of rows. Something looks weird here, but I'm going to choose to ignore it unless it becomes a problem several rows down the line. So it's like gapping out on me. Let me just check are these needles the same size? That might be my problem. 7. Nope. Okay, well. Oh, you know, because that was where I picked up the stitches. Give me a break if it doesn't look even right where I picked them up. So I had a provisional cast on. I had a few rows. What ended up happening was I knit a few more rows as per the pattern. Unpicked the cast on, put it on a separate big needle, which was a pain in my behind because there are 200 and some odd. I almost gave the number. I probably shouldn't. 200 and some odd stitches of the provisional cast on that I had to unpick, which took me like an entire YouTube binge session one morning. And there was definitely, like, my neck light got involved, my little reading light got involved. I caught this with my foot. Pro gamer move, or pro NBA move. It was lost the point. I mean, it's a long, boring process, frustrating process. I pick everything up on the second needle, and then what you do is you kind of fold it, kind of, so that the pretty side's on the outside. And then you knit 2 together with one from the original needle and one from the picked up stitches needle until everything's like attached together, you know? That's the best way I can describe it. And I did that. And when I did that, I got to the end and realized that it didn't line up. I had more stitches on my live needle than I did on my picked up stitches needle, which shouldn't have happened. There should be one for each one, right? So I actually got lazy at that point because I was frustrated from doing that all morning and just knit them all as if that wouldn't come back to bite me later. It came back to bite me later. So I then another day, like days later, pick it up, say, okay, I'm gonna do that first row, the first actual row. And I look at it and I was like, oh, right, there's a problem there. And I count some stitches, and my stitch count was off, I think. And I was like looking, and I was playing with it, and I was fidgeting with it, and I realized there was a drop stitch there on the provisional cast on side. Like I didn't pick it up, and it got released from the yarn, and then it was starting to unravel. So I look at it and then realize it's more than just that. And I couldn't tell exactly what was happening. A whole bunch of stuff was happening. And then I start fussing with it. I took a picture for Instagram. And then I start fussing with it and made it worse than that picture even shows. Just loops everywhere, and it was a giant mess. It was a mess. And I was like ready to cry. It was like before bed that night. So I was like, it's like 10 p.m. and I'm in my bed. I'm supposed to be relaxing by knitting, and this is all messed up. And so I ended up putting it away, and I took it the next day to the local yarn shop. And of course, I didn't know the proper how to take anything to your local yarn shop. I thought you just kind of walked in and said, hey, I have a problem. So that's what I did. And she was kind of like, that yarn shop owner lady was a little bit grumpy, I would say, at first, because I think I caught her off guard and then did not do the proper call ahead because I did not know that was a thing. So I was like, oh, sorry, we can leave, oops. Because my social anxiety was killing me. And she said, no, bring it here. And then she looked at it and she messed with it for an hour. It took her an hour to pick through it, to try to figure out what's happening. And after that hour, it still was not perfect. Now, that hour, it went from being totally, completely a mess to, okay, this is passable. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up, okay, this is passable. I'm just going to knit with this. Because the other option was to start from the very beginning and take out the whole thing. And I was not about to do that without a fight. Did I emphasize how long and exhausting that cast on process was? Did I emphasize that for you? Anyway, she got it passable. So I'm going to show you how it looks. How it looks now. So this is the good side for reference. So this is the way it's supposed to look. It's got some stitches and they curl around under to the back where they're picked up. Excellent, right? It's like a nice little, like a hem on a shirt. It's beautiful. Okay, this side is the bad side. Which side's the front? Which side's the front? That's when you know it's bad. And granted, she did a lovely job because she cleaned up after me quite well and saved it from having to be started over. So I want to emphasize, this is not like she doesn't know what she's doing. This is like, it was such a bad mistake that I made that it was basically unable to be fixed properly. That's what I'm saying. Here we go. So here's, scooch a little closer. Actually, hold it on the right hand. I can, yeah, there we go. Cover, it's not focusing. Focus. Okay, well it's not, okay. Can you see that it's all lumpy? And on the back, it's even more lumpy. Now this is gonna be, for reference, the bottom left side of the cardigan. So it's a cardigan kind of like this one, not quite so long, but this is the bottom left, like, hem part is what that will be. So the average observer at this point will not know there's a problem. Like if I'm walking down the street in the cardigan, no one's gonna see it. But the way I had it before, there would be all kinds of loops and strings hanging down everywhere, and possibly some stuff unraveling. I don't exactly know. Nobody exactly knows what happened. But this way it's, you know, it's okay. No one will know. It has a story, and I'm not redoing the whole gas on. So then what I've done besides that is yesterday went through the first row where you set up the markers. So a tip I have is I've color coded my markers. So I have a Post-it. It's almost like they sponsor me, I wish. Okay. What that basically says is my key to the kinds of markers I have. So the seam markers I have in blue, the band markers are in pink, and the dart markers are in orange. That makes sense to me because the pattern refers to seam and band and dart markers. So it's very simply laid out for me with the color coding, and the marker just reminds me. Or the Post-it just reminds me. So, you know, I just figure if she's referring to these things over and over in her pattern, I should be making sure I know what they are, and this is the easiest way. I also use locking stitch markers. She was talking about knitting across, knit some, set up, right, the marker, as if you were using markers that did not lock. If you're using ring markers, I use locking stitch markers for everything. Like, these markers are not going to have to come off, you know, with the locking clip, but I'm still using them because, one, I have a bunch, and two, why not? Right, this marker can do the function of a ring marker and also the function of a clipping marker. Why not? Go. That's about it. Yeah, this is as far as I've come, which looks like nothing, but trust me, is something. And so it's gonna take me 1.5 years. I was trying to focus last night, putting them in, and my brain was wandering. Brain was just not with it. So I only got one row done because the brain was not with it, right? Knit how many? Purl how many? Place what marker? What's happening? Hey, you know, let's think about something else. No! Focus! But you know, it happens. It's a process. And that's okay. And getting one row done is better than not getting any rows done, right? It's 100% better. 100%. I'm not sure if that's how percentages work. I also want to note my bag. So this bag and the sock bag were both from AC Moore before AC Moore bit the dust. So, but what I'm having problems with last night is I have several balls of yarn in here, obviously because sweater, lots of balls of yarn. I only wound about half, but there's lots in, that's still a lot. Let's see if I can, without dumping everything all over the floor. Oh, okay. No, you can't see it. Okay. So it's got like these like inside pockets, like the bag has. It's a pretty big bag, but it's got lots of inside pockets. And everything was getting all tangled up on everything until I decided to just shove everything into its own convenient inside pocket. So I've got like completely its own, some things that won't get tangled with each other. I've got the wrist braces in a pocket. I've got the extra balls of yarn, each in their own pocket, so that way they're not tangling with each other. I've got the neck light and the Notions case sharing a pocket because they're good friends. Got, my needles extras and I don't usually carry around this set of needles that I was using, but I am this time. It helped when I was picking up stitches. I don't know if I have to put anything on a cord, maybe the sleeves at some point, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's helpful. I just haven't gotten around to putting it back yet, actually. My pattern, poly envelope, I always talk about these. It's an office supply, these little plastic envelopes. Work lovely for holding your patterns and keeping them protected in the big bag of stuff. And I have in the middle the actual project and the working yarn. So yes, in the outside pocket I have a gauge ruler, which again I don't need, and a pencil and my Post-its. And okay. How's my week been? It's been pretty good. I've been playing a lot of Sims 3. Like, I've been going back on and off of Sims 3 since, like, I was in middle school. So it's been, like, 2012? 2013? Something like that. I don't remember when it came out, but somewhere around that time I've been, like, starting to play it on and off. And I go through phases, right? I go through phases where I'm doing nothing but eating and sleeping and playing Sims. And then I go through phases where I don't touch it for months. And I think I'm in a play it phase. I created a me sim, and I created a sim of my boyfriend, and I moved them into originally a tiny little house together. And because I'm so good at playing by now, because I've had so much playing skill, they're now filthy rich and living in a mansion. And they've got 2 dogs and a toddler now. And I am in love with this toddler. I've been taking so many screenshots, and my excuse is that I send them to my boyfriend because, like, I have a sim of him and, like, it's related and he indulges me. But it's really because I'm just so obsessed, and yeah, but she's adorable. Her name is Charlotte, just because I couldn't think of anything else to name her. I thought it was a pretty name. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've also been playing around with my scheduling. I've been going through phases of planner, trying to figure out what kind of planner is right for me, and right now I'm working with Google Calendar, actually, and Todoist together. And between the 2 of those, I've been blocking my time. This will be my 3rd week doing that, giving more structure to my day, because I have such a flexible schedule. I actually need more structure. I need to artificially add structure because I'm going insane, just meandering around, not knowing what to do with myself. So this kind of solves that. And I also, makes me feel less guilty about doing fun things like playing Sims 3, because I'm not having this, like, I should be folding the laundry right now. I should be working on school right now, because I have set aside time to do those things. And so, and I fit in Sims 3 where it fits, basically, so I don't feel guilty about it. So that's been my update for you. I hope everything is going well for you on your end of the video screen, wherever you are, whatever's going on. Hope you're having a good time and things are going well. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Megan. This has been Miss Megan Knits. Links to everything I've talked about, description box below, just in case you forgot. And I will see you in a future video.